Hello viewers, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I am going to discuss you about the pollination. Pollination is the process that transfers the pollen grain from anther to stigma. What is anther? It is the male part, a part of androecium, and gynoecium, which is the female part of the flower. Stigma is a part of gynoecium. Okay, so the transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma this process is called pollination. It is actually a very important process because before fertilization of the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Because if there is no transfer of pollen grain to the stigma, then the male gamete will not reach to the gynoecium, to the female gamete. Then there will be no fertilization, and if there will be no fertilization, then the species will not be able to continue their races. So pollination is a very important step in the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So let's come in detail. So here is the definition. Pollination is the process of transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma. How it performed? Suppose this is a plant. This is one flower and there are another flowers also. When the transference of pollen occurring in the same flower, in both the flowers are bisexual. Okay, here flowers are bisexual. So if the transference of pollen grain occurring in the same flower, it's called the self-pollination. And self-pollination has two types. When the flower is it's a bud or the petals are closed, that kind of flower is called cleistogamous flower. Cleistogamous is a cleistogamous flower. Is a kind of self-pollination when the transfer of pollen grain occurring in the same flower. And in another case, when the transfer of pollen grain occurring from one flower to different flower and both the flowers are situated on the same plant. That is also self-pollination. Transference of pollen grain from one flower to another flower of the same plant. That kind of pollination is called geitonogamy. Okay, this is geitonogamy. And for the cleistogamous flower, here the flower petals are closed, and if the petals are open, that kind of flower is called chasmogamy. When it is a bud, but it's not a bud. Here the petals are open, but here petals are closed. Here this is cleistogamous flower. This is chasmogamous flower. So geitonogamy and autogamy, we call often them as a autogamy. Cleistogamy, chasmogamy, these are autogamy because the fertilization are occurring in the same flower. But here fertilization pollination is occurring on the different flower of the same plant. This is geitogamy and both are autogamy. And in cross pollination, transference of pollen grain occurring from one flower to another flower in the different plant. Both the flowers are on the different plant, but here the species is same, on the same species. Transference of pollen grain from anther to stigma of the different flower of different plant but same species. Okay, let's come in chart where I'm going to show you the detail classification of pollination. Here is the chart. This chart will help you to learn self-pollination, cross-pollination. These are major two types of pollination. Self-pollination further divided into autogamy and geitonogamy. Autogamy, pollen grains transferred to the stigma of the same flower, and geitonogamy, pollen grains transferred to different flowers of the same plant. Here it is cross pollination. Pollen grains transferred from anther to the stigma of the flowers of different plant of the same species. Species is same here. But cross pollination needs some agencies. As they are transfer their pollen grain to the another plant, so there must be some agent that transfer that pollen grain to the another flower. So there are some abiotic agencies like wind, water, and some biotic agencies, insects, birds, bat, snail. These are some biotic agents. Okay. Here is some examples where we can see self-pollination. You may pause my video and take a screenshot of this chart. This chart will help you to memorize all the examples. Autogamy, here two types of autogamy, cleistogamy, Commelina bengalensis, Viola oxalis, Casmogamy, potato, rice, mirabilis, catharanthus, Geitonogamy, maize, corn, banana. These are the examples of self-pollination. In this chart, I am showing you the examples of cross-pollination. As cross-pollination depends on the agency, so there are different cross-pollination based on the name of the agencies. Number 1, wind pollination. Wind pollination is called anemophily and the flower is called anemophilous flower. This chart is very important for the exam because most of the questions ask that give example of entomophilous flower, give example of hydrophilous flower, give example of chiroptophilous flower. So this chart will help you a lot to memorize all the types of cross pollination with their agencies. Okay, so first here is a wind pollination, anemophily. Okay, anemophily. Wind pollinated flowers are called anemophily. Wind pollinated flowers are very lightweight flower as they have to transfer from to travel to long distance, so they must be lightweighted. And the examples are grasses, sugarcane, maize, bamboo, coconut, palm, amaranthus. Water pollinated flowers are called hydrophily. Here two types of flowers, water pollinated flower or hydrophilous flowers are of two types, epihydrophily and hypohydrophily. Epihydrophily is what? Whenever the pollination is occurring on the surface of the water, on the surface. This is water. Okay, this is water bodies and the pollination is occurring on the surface of the water. These are the two pollen grains and stigma. Suppose this is a stigma, this is a pollen grain. They are fused. They are transferring. Transference is occurring on the surface of the water. That is epihydrophily. And hypohydrophily. In case of hypohydrophily, the pollination is occurring under the water. This kind of pollination is actually we can find in case of submerged plants. Okay, so this is the surface and the pollination is occurring here under the surface. So that kind of pollination is called the hypohydrophily. Next, there is a insect pollination. Insect pollination is called the entomophily and the flower called entomophilous flower. Examples are salvia, Calotropis, Yucca, Ficus. These are. Bird pollination. Bird pollination is called ornithophily and the flower is called ornithophilous flower. Examples are Bignonia, Techomeria, Butea, Monosperma, Agave, Bombax. Hummingbird is an important bird. They suck nectar. Okay. Bat pollination is called the chiroptophily. Flower is called chiroptophilous flower. Examples are Kadam, Bauhinia, Megalandra, Adansonia. These are some examples of bat pollination, bat pollinated flower. Snail pollination is called malacophily, malacophilous flower. Example, cobra plant, arum, lilies. Okay, these plants give shelter to the snail, give shelter to snail. That's why they help in pollination for that plants. Pollination by human is called the anthropophily. Date palm. Actually, human beings, what they do artificial pollination. They pick up pollen grain of another some plants and they shed that pollen grains to the another plant to the another plant, to the stigma of the another plant. So here artificial pollination is done by the human beings. Okay, so these are the different types of cross pollinations with their examples. Pause my video and take a screenshot of that chart. It will help you more. Here I have to say one thing, that cross pollination is very much helpful. It's very advantageous in compared to the self pollination, because self pollination here, fertilization, the pollination is occurring in the same plant. So here no varieties are actually developed. But in case of cross pollination, new varieties may arise, as because the pollen grains are coming from different plants, definitely of the same species, but pollen grains are coming from different plants. So here different characters, different varieties are merged in the same plant. So cross pollination is very becoming very healthier. The seeds of that kind of plant would be very healthier in compared to the self pollination. Now this is my last topic for in this chapter, that is pollination, that is adaptations or contrivances to ensure cross pollination. That means some plants are maybe bisexual, but there are some conditions, that conditions provoke them to perform the cross pollination. So there are some points. That first, unisexuality. Unisexuality, that means maybe the plant is staminate flower. Staminate flower, that means if, in the flower there is only male reproductive part is there, that is only androecium. Androecium or only male part bearing flower is called staminate flower. As same as pistillate flower, pistillate flower, that means only female part bearing flower. So they are unisexual flower. We call them as a unisexual flower. They are not bisexual. As they are not bisexual, so as they are unisexual, so the pollen grain have to go to the stigma of the another flower. So here cross pollination is occurring. So unisexuality is a point, is a character that insists a flower to perform cross pollination. Next, come to dichogamy. Dichogamy is the timing, maturity timing is different for the anther and stigma. If anther mature first, then we call them as a protandry. And if gynoecium mature first, okay, then we call them as a protogyny. Protandry, protogyny. If androecium mature first, then we call protandry, and in androecium mature first is called protandry, and if gynoecium mature first, then protogyny. Both are not maturing at the same time. As they are not maturing at the same time, so they must depend on the another flower for receiving the pollen grain. Suppose gynoecium mature first, but the anthers not mature. So pollen must come from the another flower, because its own androecium is immature till then. Okay. Next, heterostyly. Heterostyly is the dissimilar in their length. If the androecium, the stamen is shorter, and the style, gynoecium, for the gynoecium, style is longer than the stamen. So here, how could the pollen grain be transferred on the stigma, reach to the stigma? It's not possible. That's why that stigma is depend on the another flower. It will depend on another flower for the pollen, for its pollen grain. Okay, and that anther shed its pollen grain to another flower. So here cross pollination is actually happening. They are bisexual, but due to their dissimilar in their length, they are supposed to do cross pollination. Next, hercogamy. Hercogamy is a physical barrier. Suppose sometimes what happens, the petals are arranged in a manner that gynoecium and androecium, between them a barrier created between them, physical barrier created between them for the arrangement of floral parts. That barrier insists them to perform cross-pollination. That character is called the hercogamy. Next come to self-sterility. Self-sterility, if the male part or female part is sterile, they are not able to perform any reproduction, any kind of reproduction. So they are called the sterile flower. If the flower is sterile, then that flower, any parts of the, if gynoecium is sterile, the androecium is sterile, then the flower is supposed to do cross pollination. So these are some characters that insist a flower to perform cross pollination. So these are all about the pollination. We have learned what is pollination, different types of pollination, examples of different types of pollination, and some adaptations that actually insist a plant to perform cross pollination. And also I mentioned about the advantage of and disadvantages of cross pollination. What is the advantage of cross pollination? Okay, thank you for watching. If you have any doubt, definitely ask me in my comment section. On my next video, I will definitely clear you. And if you have any topic recommendation, then also inform me in my comment section. Till then, thank you. Take care. I will meet very soon with my new video, new topic. Thank you.